You know, in art and photography, there's this secret ingredient that can take a good image and make it absolutely unforgettable. And it's not the subject, it's not the color, not even the light. It's space. And it's probably the most powerful yet most overlooked element of them all. Okay, take a look at this. It's a striking image, right? You can just feel the energy, the freedom. But what is it that really makes it so captivating? Now, you might be thinking it's the silhouettes of the children, and that's fair, but I'm going to argue that the true star of this photograph is all that so-called empty space. It's that secret ingredient that gives the subjects their context, their meaning, and really their power. So, what are we actually talking about when we say space? Believe me, it's a lot more than just what's left over after you place your subject in the frame. Here's how I want you to think about it. Space is an emptiness. Not at all. It's an active, tangible element that artists and photographers are carefully controlling. It's the very field they play in, the canvas they use to build an entire world on a completely flat surface. To really get a handle on this, we've got to break it down. We need to understand this fundamental duality of how we see space in, well, pretty much any composition. It basically breaks down like this. You've got positive space. That's the thing itself, the person, the mountain, whatever the main focus is. Then you have negative space. That's everything else. The area around and between the subjects. It's what gives that positive space focus and, room to breathe. Without it, everything would just feel cluttered and totally chaotic. And boom, this image is a perfect example. The tree, that's our positive space, our clear subject. But it's that massive, sweeping expanse of sky and snow, that's the negative space, that creates the feeling of isolation, of peace, of incredible scale. That negative space is what tells the story. Okay, so artists can define subjects with space. But how do they use it to pull off that magic trick of making our eyes see a three-dimensional world on a two-dimensional surface? Well, they have this whole toolbox of techniques. Things like overlapping objects, playing with their size, or using linear perspective. But honestly, one of the most beautiful and effective techniques is something called atmospheric perspective. This technique is so cool because it perfectly mimics how our eyes actually see the world. Think about it. When you look at a distant mountain range, right, the farthest peaks always look a little hazy, a little pale. Artists harness that effect to create this incredible illusion of distance. And wow, just look at how this photo brings that idea to life. Check out the layers here. The silhouettes in the front, they're sharp and black. But as you move your eye deeper into the photo, the layers of trees and mountains get lighter, hazier. They just fade into the fog. You can almost feel the miles of air between you and that farthest peak. It's amazing. So it turns out all these photographs we've been looking at are all from one artist who is an absolute master of space. Henki Quinjero. And you don't have to take my word for it. In his own words, Coinchoro's entire philosophy revolves around using space. For him, less is more isn't just a catchy phrase, it's the guiding principle of his art. He actively, intentionally uses negative space to build his incredible compositions. And this right here, this image is that philosophy in a nutshell. I mean, look at it. The subjects, the person and the huts, they're tiny. The vast, overwhelming majority of the frame is just open water and sky. And that immense negative space is what gives the image its serene, meditative quality. And when you hear about his inspirations, it all just clicks. He looks to Mother Nature for his subjects, and to the structure of Japanese haiku, these short, beautiful poems, for his minimalist approach. He's not just taking pictures, he's creating visual poetry. But why this approach? Why strip away all the distractions, all the color, all the clutter? Well, it really all comes down to one thing: emotion. He puts it perfectly. He believes that by removing color, he's not taking something away from you. He's actually allowing you to see more. Without the distraction of color, your brain is forced to focus on the fundamental building blocks of the image, the texture, the shapes, the lines. And these images just prove his point, don't they? On the left, you can almost feel the crisp edge where the snow meets the sand. On the right, your eye is immediately drawn to the grain of the weathered wood on that pier. You notice these details so much more intensely because color isn't there competing for your attention. So here's the big takeaway. This control of space
is also a control of mood. An artist can fill the frame to create a feeling of energy, maybe even chaos, or they can empty it out, like Quinjoro does, to give you a sense of peace, solitude, or even monumental scale. Space is an emotional tool. And here's the really cool part. Once you start to understand this principle, once you start looking for it, you can't unsee it. It totally changes the way you look at everything. At the end of the day, understanding space isn't just some boring art theory lesson. It's like getting a new lens for seeing the world. This small subject is made to feel so vulnerable, so isolated, precisely because of that vast, dark space engulfing it. This knowledge empowers you to see the stories that are being told in the emptiness. So the next time you look at a photograph, or a painting, or even just the world outside your window, don't just look at the objects. Look at the space between them. Because now that you can see it, that emptiness is suddenly full of meaning. So, what are you going to do with the space around you?